Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to this special Halloween episode of Sights for Sore Eyes. I am here in the town of Van Meter, Iowa, just 25 miles outside of Des Moines, here amongst the dead, where nearly 120 years ago, a monster came to call. Perhaps some of our dearly departed friends here remember the daunting case of the Van Meter monster. September 29th, 1903. Local tool dealer U.G. Griffin was ambling home late one night on the main fairway in Van Meter. It was near 1 o'clock in the morning, and the street was dark and dead quiet. While making his way, Mr. Griffith noticed a light atop of one of the buildings. Having lived in the small coal mining town of Van Meter nearly all of his life, he knew that light had not been there before, and feared it might be a burglar or prowler. As he approached, the light suddenly and without warning disappeared from the roof, only to reappear on the roof across the street. Griffith, understandably quite shocked by this, cautiously drew nearer, only to witness the light once again take flight, launching itself skyward, its light growing smaller as it ascended toward the clouds until it disappeared. The next day, Mr. Griffin shared his story of the mysterious light bearer to all who would listen, and being a well-respected businessman, no one had reason to disbelieve him. The following day, September 30th, 1903, Van Meter's new and strange guest would come again to call. Dr. Alicott was asleep in his bed when around 1 o'clock in the morning, he was awakened by a bright beam of light shining in his face from beyond the window. The good doctor jumped out of bed, ran outside, grabbing his firearm along the way, fearing this could be a robber or some other trespasser. What he found instead was worse, much worse. There, he was confronted with what was described as a tall, humanoid form with bat-like wings and, strangest of all, a single horn upon its head from which a bright light shone forth. The doctor, not missing a beat, reflexively unloaded 5 rounds from his firearm towards the creature, none of which seemed to have any effect whatever. The creature simply stood there, looming. The scared doctor then stumbled back inside, locking the door. When he looked again, the creature had vanished. October 1st, 1903. Van Meter's uninvited visitor would make itself known once more. Clarence Dunn, manager of the town bank, was fearful a robber might be lurking about and thought it best to protect the fortunes of his clientele personally. And so he headed to the bank, shotgun in tow, to settle in for a night of guard duty. At around 1 o'clock in the morning, Dunn heard the awful gasping sound of someone being strangled, when suddenly the bank was awash with a bright light shining from the outside. Dunn reportedly blasted the light with buckshot, shattering the bank window. The creature then fled, again seemingly unharmed. But in the light of the next morning, strange three-toed footprints were found outside of the bank. Plaster casts are said to have been made of the prints, but those casts have been lost to time. October 2nd, 1903. Local hardware store owner O.V. White was startled awake by a terrible sound of grinding metal. He was quick to grab his rifle, kept handy on account of recent unsettling encounters. As he peered through his window, he spied a dark figure perched atop a telegraph pole just mere feet away. White took aim and fired. His shot seemingly made purchase, but only made the creature glare at him in an irritated fashion. It was then that he was overcome by a stench so vile it caused him to faint. It was then that Sidney Gregg, co-owner of the hardware store, awakened by the commotion, came to investigate. There at the scene, he observed a humanoid winged monster descending the telegraph pole using a large parrot-like beak. When it reached the ground, it stood to its full height of about 8 feet. Legs like that of a kangaroo, and a powerful light upon its forehead. It then bounded away before taking flight with its massive wings. October 3rd, 1903. J.L. Platt, manager of a brick and tile factory at the edge of town, noticed strange noises coming from the abandoned coal mine at around 1 o'clock in the morning. He described the noises as sounding like Satan and a regiment of imps were coming forth for battle. When Mr. Platt went to investigate, he found not one, but 2 winged beasts at the mouth of the old mine. Light shining from their horns upon their heads, the 2 creatures then took flight, disappearing into the night. Word quickly spread amongst the townsfolk about this most recent encounter, and it was deduced that the abandoned mine served as their lair. And so a posse was formed. Men assembled carrying any weapon they could find and set out for the mine to set up camp, keeping vigil for the monster's return. And return they did. The following evening, at around 1 o'clock in the morning, the posse opened fire, but again, their bullets had no effect. Said one newspaper report, the reception they received would have sunk the Spanish fleet, but aside from unearthly noise and peculiar odor, they did not seem to mind, but slowly descended the shaft of the old mine. The mine was then sealed up, and the monsters were never seen again. So, what was this duo of demonry lurking about the town of Van Meter? Was it a real monster? A cryptid like the Mothman? Was it simply a story made up to sell newspapers? Was it perhaps aliens from another world? The truth may never be known. What we do know is that if these Van Meter monsters were real, they may still be lurking in the miles of twisted tunnels of the darkened, abandoned mine. Perhaps one day they'll be seen again.
here we are in what over 100 years ago used to be the main drag in Van Meter. Today, there's not much going on. But on that first night of the visitor's appearance, this is where it all went down. When U.G. Griffith was walking down the street at 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not clear which way he was walking or what building he saw the creature on. But it was in this area. We do know, however, that on that second night, when Clarence Dunn, the bank manager, went to protect the investments of the townspeople at the bank, that bank was located just over here. It was one of these two buildings, either the law shop here, or what, I guess they're both the law shop. It was one of these two buildings where the old bank was, and that's where Mr. Clarence Dunn was protecting the bank. He heard the sound of grinding metal, and he opened fire, shattering the bank window. And reportedly, the next morning, when he finally got the courage to leave the bank, would have been just out here where he saw the three-toed footprints. Now, the following night, when Mr. O.V. White, owner of the hardware and furniture store, encountered the creature, the building where that happened is where this peach and white striped building was. This is where he came outside, and he saw the creature on top of a telephone pole, which was probably here, or perhaps there where the police car is. When the monster came down from the telegraph pole, he ran that way towards the train tracks. There used to be a train depot building there, and then it took flight off, presumably in this direction, in the direction of the old mine, and that is where we're going now. These are the ruins of the old coal mining operation, and right next to it, just about there, would have been where the tile and brick manufacturing operation was. As a matter of fact, if you can see that pile there, it looks like a pile of old tile pipes, very likely from the brick and tile factory itself. So somewhere in here is where they had the standoff with the monster. They opened fire on it. It retreated into the mine, and the mine was immediately sealed up. So, if the story is true, then behind those brick walls, deep under the ground, in mine tunnels spanning for miles, is where the Van Meter monsters still lie to this day. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this spooky Halloween tale. If you like this one, check out some of these other creepy tales just suited for the season. Till next time, I'll see you later on Sights for Sore Eyes.